Hi everyone, it's Simon Keeling here at weatherweb.net on Sunday the 17th of January. Thanks again for watching. Interesting developments taking place over the next couple of weeks, particularly with reference to colder weather. Yes, we've seen the cold weather today produce some snow, but as predicted, really this cold snap hasn't been much to write home about, has it? We did say all along that we thought that it would be a chillier spell rather than anything too cold. Nice to see some snow around for many of us this morning, but there's not been that much around at all, has there? I think we're entering a cold and damp week. Maybe more in the way of snow around towards the end of the week as milder air gets back in on a southwesterly. This is the forecast 15-day temperature chart. And you notice here this rise in temperature towards the end of the week. Ireland, Western Wales, Southwest England probably in milder weather for much of the week, but then it's the southwesterlies that break through by Friday or Saturday, bringing more unsettled conditions. It looks like there could be a fair amount of rain around actually at the end of the week as that system comes in. It'll probably be hit and miss with the mild air really having a bit of a battle to get in. Wouldn't be surprised somewhere Friday, perhaps early Saturday, ahead of that mild air getting in. If we don't get a few hours of snowfall in some places, that then turning to freezing rain and to rain, and some pretty heavy rain around as well before the milder air gets through, and eventually we get these milder conditions coming in. However, it's a little bit further ahead than I'm interested in just at the moment. The CFS doing some interesting stuff. This is the CFS rainfall forecast up to the end of this week, so it's the 23rd of January. Notice the dry conditions off towards the east. Yeah, a little bit of wetter stuff out towards the west, which is the mildest air trying to get in, but generally this is the milder air out towards the west. Now, forecast for the weekend in the 30th of January, so for next week, what's interesting is it keeps the more persistent rain off western parts of Scotland into Ireland, Wales, much of England as well. But just notice how Scotland is dry. Well, northern and eastern Scotland at least are drier, and northeast England. And I think what this is trying to hint at is that the cooler air is trapped out here, and it may well be that the mild just really struggles to get through Scotland and northeastern England. However, elsewhere generally quite wet. Then the week ended the 6th of February. A wetter week, the jet breaking through into here. Notice wet conditions, Scotland, Wales, southwest England, much of western parts of Ireland as well. Generally less rain off towards the east, so this indicating more of a westerly flow. Notice how wet it is down across southeastern parts of Europe. And then it does this. This is the weekend, the 13th of February. It tries to build in high pressure during this week, shifts the jet further south, and tries to get us into more of a northeast to easterly flow, and a cooler northeast to easterly flow at that. But it doesn't last very long, because by the weekend of the 20th, getting some very wet conditions, and that taking us up to the end of the month. And actually, I think that's probably not too bad a representation, this idea of it breaking down to milder conditions at the end of February. When it breaks down is a different story. So picking up on this cold middle part of February, now what you've got to be careful of here is that we don't try and find ourselves trying to plug into our long ranges, which have said that February would be colder, particularly the middle part of the month. You've got to be careful you try not to make it fit. But there's some signals coming through of cooler weather in February. It's very hit and miss, still borderline. But this is the Arctic Oscillation forecast from the CFS. And what's interesting here, this is from Carl McRitchie's site, by the way. What's interesting here is mid-February, look, it takes the AO negative and it lasts through much of March. Now, the AO go negative is when the normal westerly flow around the poles weakens. It allows cold air to drain off the poles further south into temperate latitudes. Just compare that with the North Atlantic Oscillation for the same period. And generally, it tries to keep things positive through the first half of February, then drops them off at the end of February and into March. It kind of seems a little bit counterintuitive from what I've just said, and to some extent it is. I think, though, we need to kind of take this signal of cooler air coming south. That tends to strengthen off the jet, or strengthen up the jet. And I think we've got to pick out that signal from the AO, look at the Arctic Oscillation falling negative, and think, well, if this is a little bit earlier, if this is back in here, that again brings us into this cooler part of the month. I think what the models, the long range, is definitely suffering from at the moment is difficulty in being able to establish the overall pattern as the El Nino collapses away and as the Arctic oscillation falls negative and the NAO tries to get into negative territory as well. So I think what we've got to do is take an overall story from this rather than specific times. And what's interesting is that the upper atmosphere, the stratosphere, is showing some warmings of sort. This is the 50 HPA, so 50 millibars analysis for today. And there, I want you to watch that warm little area of water air that's shown in there. Going to take it forward in 24-hour steps. Notice that that warmer air is kind of there up till next week, and then into the beginning part of the week after, we start to see some warming taking place. Now, by the time we're getting into the 29th, 30th, 31st of January, that's quite a feature. And notice that the cooler block of air slips off the pole here down into central parts of Europe, into northeastern parts of Europe, I should say, and into central parts of Europe. And that warming becomes quite significant across northern parts of the States. Now, it's very, very early days, but to me, this warming is a more notable event than the one that took place a couple of weeks ago. And what you tend to find is that within a couple of weeks of this warming event taking place, you do get hits of colder weather. So I think what we've got to do from this, and by the way, these charts are available at weatherweb.net. What you do is you go to weatherweb.net, you click on charts at the top here, and then down the left-hand side is GFS Ensemble. Go to GFS Ensemble, click on Strato Temp 50, and it brings you up those northern hemispheric charts updated 4 times a day. Now, I think what we've got to take from this is the idea that things point towards cooler weather getting set up during February. I don't think it's going to be desperately cold, but certainly there could be something in there. And we're advising private clients at the moment of a cold snap perhaps in that middle part of the month, but that could shift. But looks as if there is something in there, perhaps lasting for 7 to 10 days, a colder, frostier period, perhaps with some snow in there as well. So some early signs, and as I say, I'm just desperate not to try and plug this in to any existing long-range forecast. It's pretty difficult at times, though, not to do that, but that's what we're trying to avoid just at the moment. Okay, I'm going to leave you with that for now, but whatever you're doing, thanks again for watching. Keep the sun shining, and bye for now.